What do you think is the importance of background checks? It's one of the features of your legislation.
You know, it's critical. Recent research by the Johns Hopkins School of Public Health indicates that background checks and permitting processes that tap into a criminal background check keeps guns out of the hands of criminals. And, you know, even the gun advocates, even some of those folks on the far extreme of the NRA claim that that is their goal, to protect the law-abiding citizen and to keep the guns out of the hands of the criminals. If that's where they stand, why won't they support these essential checks?
Let's take a look at one of your colleagues, a Republican colleague in the Senate, the Connecticut Senate. It's one of the most stirring moments, many think, today in the debate. It occurred when Republican Senate Minority Leader John McKinney, whose district includes Newtown, recalled those killed in the December massacre. Let's listen to the senator.
And so today, in making this vote, I want to be the voice for Charlotte Bacon and Daniel Barden and Olivia Engel and Josephine Gay and Anna Marquez Green and Dylan Hockley, and Madeline Shue, and Catherine Hubbard, and Chase Kowalski, and Jesse Lewis, and James Mattioli, and Grace McDonald, and Emily Parker, and Jack Pinto, and Noah Posner, and Caroline Praviti, and Jessica Ricos, and Aviel Richmond, and Benjamin Wheeler, and Allison Wyatt, and their siblings, and their moms, and their dads.
Senator, this has been a good bipartisan day up there in Connecticut, hasn't it, in regards to this bill?
It sure has been. Senator McKinney is a good friend and colleague of mine. I sit next to him in the state Senate. And he read the names of all of the children, the elementary school children, their teachers and administrators, 26 in all, who lost their lives. That was a tipping point in Connecticut. It should be a tipping point for the entire country.
Joining me right now is Larry Pratt. He comes from a different side of this argument. He's executive director of the Gun Owners of America. Where are you on background checks?
We've opposed background checks from the very beginning. The Journal of the American Medical Association, which is no friend of ours, had published a study several years after the background checks were imposed, and they found that they hadn't had any impact on reducing crime. So we have a system in place.
Wait a minute. How do you know that a person, let's talk logic here. If a criminal or a nut or an addict or a wife beater shows up at a gun store and wants to buy a gun, and the guy says no, how does that not prevent violence? How's that not a good thing to happen?
Well, obviously, criminals have
Would you sell a gun to one of these people?
Criminals have other places.
Would you sell a gun? Well, then why should a gun store sell it?
You listen to the answer, please. Don't be so impolite.
No, I'm being polite. You said no.
And I was following on with an explanation of why we are opposed to it. The Journal of the American Medical Association said these background checks had not lowered crime in the first several years that it had been imposed.
Well,
Secondly, the ACLU has raised valid concerns even today that we're constructing a national gun registry, and that raises serious privacy questions.
The law right now is you can't sell guns knowingly to any of these categories of people, criminals, wife abusers. Right.
Of course.
You want to get rid of that law?
That's not the...
no, would you like to get rid of that law?
Of course not. No,
you want to leave that law in effect?
That would apply to anybody, but you don't need a background check to follow through on.
Oh, so you don't want a background check, even the one in the law today?
Period.
You want to get rid of the background check?
Absolutely.
So your response to Newtown is to get rid of what we have now?
Well, it's not our response. We've had that since the very beginning. We objected to it.
Okay,
we said this will become a gun registry.
The illogic of this,
and it has become a gun registry.
The illogic of this is as follows. If I walked into a gun store to you and I look like a nut, a crazy person, would you sell me a gun?
No, and frequently gun dealers experience that. And
so if you could call up and find out in a matter of seconds where this person has a mental capacity that's a problem and has been court-ordered not to be operating in any way with a gun, why would you want to take advantage of that information?
Chris, even after you've done that, the chap that's been turned down can easily go somewhere else. And
Where?
They do.
Where they go?
Get them on the street.
That's what we're trying to stop. The new law proposed
is
you can't have private sales, you can't have internet sales, you can't have gun shows.
Criminals are going to obey that? And private sales, by the way, means you're going to outlaw private sales. People will have to now go through dealers.
Okay.
Will have to have.
I don't know how to argue with it except this. If we have a 65-mile-an-hour speed limit, because most people obey the law, All right? Why don't we just get rid of the speed limits? Because not everybody's going to obey them.
As a matter of fact, Chris, we think the country would be just fine without the background check.
Without any speed limits, too.
Well, I didn't say that. You're making
no, but I'm arguing from your argument. Your argument says because some people can get around this, therefore don't try to stop it.
Because they do, and then the risk to the good guys of the gun registry and the abuse of the data that can be.
Okay, let's start with this.
And we have.
Why is there an abuse? Why is it bad for the government of the United States to maintain information on people that are criminals, wife beaters, addicts, or otherwise threats to society, so they are under some sort of restraining order, so they don't get access to firearms? What's wrong with that?
They're going to get access to firearms anyway. If they have a criminal intent, they're going to do it. They have done it. They do it all along. And so what you're saying is you're okay with a national gun registry.
No, I'm not. I never said that.
Well, that's what we're doing with this national background instant check, which, by the way, isn't always that instant. A lot of times.
Do we have a national registry right now?
We have a substantial part of it because we know that when a dealer enters a portal through his internet access to get a background check, he gets an information sheet that says this data is the property of the United States government,
let me ask
and we can do with it what we want. That violates federal law.
Let's go down to debate. Let's stay debate. This is all slippery slope argument.
They violate the law when they get it.
You walk into a store, and somebody says to you, I want to see an ID card to see if you're 21. Is that all right with you?
I don't have a problem with that.
Okay. So somebody walks to the store in order to protect the store, so he doesn't sell to a criminal. He wants to know, a store owner, whether I'm selling to a criminal or not. Isn't it helpful to have him access to check and see if this person is a felon or not? What's wrong with that information?
And, if you stop there, he'll go somewhere else to get it, or he'll do what the GAO did a number of years ago. Okay. He'll get a false ID, and he'll
I've had you on, but there's something really ideological about this because it doesn't make any sense to me. If I'm a good guy, I go to church on Sunday or synagogue, and I want to be a good person. I don't want to sell a gun to a nut, a criminal, or wife beater, somebody on a restraining order. How can I avoid doing that? If Joe Smith walks in the door, eyes wide open, I want to buy a Bushmaster, what am I supposed to do? Just sell it to him?
Chris, you're assuming that if you stop him at one point, he's forever stopped.
No,
that's
I didn't say that.
Stop. Well, yes,
well,
you are.
Like, no, police officers.
Because he's going to go elsewhere and get the gun. That's what criminals have done. That's what they are doing.
Why do we have squad cars in big cities where we have tough crime neighborhoods, some places when they can't be anywhere? Because they help to deter. You would say don't have any squad cars, any police, because you can't stop all crime. What kind of argument is that? Let me finish tonight with this week's bottom line argument of the National Rifle Association. We can't have real background checks on who buys a gun. Why? Because we can. Why can't we? Because we're going to filibuster. That's why. Why are you going to filibuster? Because we don't want background checks. Why don't you want background checks? Because we're going to have guards in schools instead. How do you know those guards don't have criminal records or have mental problems? Because we're going to force them to have background checks. Got it? We'll give guards with guns to guards only if they have background checks. But we won't make anyone else have a background check. That way, you see, we make sure everyone has a gun. Got it? Do you? We sell guns.